How did Cole Thomas Allen bypass security at one of the most highly protected buildings on Earth during the third assassination attempt on our president, Donald J. Trump? To understand how, let's take a look at this 3D model of the Hilton Hotel that we put together just 12 hours ago. The event was split across two floors, the terrace and the concourse. The guests had to clear security at the bottom of the stairs just to access the ballroom, which held the president, the first lady, and top government officials. So how did the shooter bypass these checkpoints? Well, he simply traveled from LA and checked in as a regular hotel guest. Security was full of blind spots, including zero luggage screening at the front doors. When he finally hit the main...
So I'm going to try and address this as we go through step by step as they bring up issues. I'm going to address them one by one. If I see issues, I'll bring them up. But one of the things that first come up is people have to realize that the hotel lobby is open to the public. And I get the President of the United States is there and they're having a dinner and a correspondence meeting, et cetera, and people should be monitored, passed through the magnetometers and identified, etc. But they wanted to leave the lobby open for the public to come in and come out. Again, that is a call by the Secret Service. You would think after the assassination attempt on Reagan's life that they would find a different venue or close it off completely, have a separate entrance for guests, maybe some type of different traffic pattern for people to come in and out where they're a little bit more highly monitored and screened.
Checkpoint, he charged in guns blazing, carrying a shotgun, a pistol, and several knives. It begs the question, what if he hadn't been stopped? Had the Secret Service failed on those stairs, the assassin would have made it to the ballroom. Walking freely right through this passage, he almost certainly would have wiped out the entire American leadership. This part 1, the assassin behind the plan. To understand what happened on the night of April 25th, 2026, you first need to understand who Cole Thomas Allen was. Born April 11, 1995, Allen attended the California Institute of Technology from 2013 to 2017. But beneath that ordinary surface, something was building. On the evening of April 25th, roughly 10 minutes before he made his move, Allen sent family members a written statement calling himself the friendly federal assassin, expressing deep anti-Trump sentiments and clearly stating he wanted to target administration officials. He had purchased his shotgun legally in August 2025 and also owned a semi-automatic pistol purchased in 2023. Both purchases required FBI background checks, which he passed. He had no criminal record.
So let me address that. The background checks for guns, they're just question and answer. So there's no person-to-person interview. So you just answer the questions, you check your boxes, and you sign it. You go through an FBI background check in regards to criminal activity, anything that you've been involved in for them to deny based on their parameters.
He had no restraining orders. Nothing in the system marked him as a threat. This brings us to part 2, the journey to Washington. Allen checked into the Washington Hilton on Friday, the day before the event. He had traveled from Los Angeles to Chicago by train, and then from Chicago to Washington, D.C. He was not flagged. He was not stopped. But how on earth could someone with a disassembled long gun check into a hotel room where the president was scheduled to speak? The answer is simple. Nobody even looked at the guest's luggage. His bags went completely unchecked on Friday afternoon, and all of his belongings remained unchecked as late as 5:00 p.m. on the day of the event.
So let me address that. Again, they wanted to leave the lobby open for the public. You just can't walk up to anybody and say, hey, I'm going to check your bags. If they're coming through, going to an event, you could check their bags at that point. But if they're coming in the main entrance just to stay at the hotel, now, if they would have set that up, the Secret Service would have set that up as an entry point, every entrance door, yes, then you're subject to having your bag searched. But they left that open. So you leave that open to the public, it does not give you the right, even the Secret Service, to say, hey, let me check your bag.
Allen spent Friday night in his hotel room where he assembled his weapons and waited. Here is part 3, the dinner begins. At 8:00 p.m., the Washington Hilton's International Ballroom, built deep underground beneath the hotel, was packed with 2,600 guests in black tie. The hotel's layout for this event can be divided into 2 main sections, the terrace level, and just below it, the concourse or lower level. This subterranean room was the exact location where the president, the first lady, the vice president, the FBI director, the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, the EPA administrator, and the Secretary of Health and Human Services were gathered. Effectively, the entire executive leadership of the United States government was seated together in a single confined space. Meanwhile, Alan was making his move. Preliminary investigations determined that he used a stairwell to descend from his hotel room down to the terrace level, carrying his firearms in a bag. He walked down those stairs calmly. He knew exactly where the checkpoint was, and he knew exactly what he was walking toward. So how did he breach the perimeter? We look to part 4, the breach. Using his room key, Alan walked through the hotel lobby and corridors like any other guest. Security cameras recorded him carrying a shotgun, a handgun, and multiple knives, completely unchallenged.
Another little faux pas. They probably had their own camera set up, and that's all they were monitoring. They need to monitor, or they should have been monitoring, every single camera in the hotel. So if this guy's walking around with a shotgun in hand, they would have caught it way earlier.
At approximately 8:36,
And that's another reason. If he was seen by other people, I always say, if you see something, say something. Worst case scenario, the police, Secret Service, or somebody shows up and it's nothing. But if it looks unusual, say something.
6 p.m. Eastern Time, Alan was finally confronted by security near the main metal detector screening area, just outside the ballroom doors. He sprinted past the initial security barricades and opened fire. At least 2 shots rang out as he engaged the security forces. A member of the Secret Service Uniform Division returned fire just before Alan was apprehended, though the shot missed amid the chaos. Alan was immediately swarmed, tackled, pinned face down to the ground, and handcuffed right at the magnetometers. He never made it through the ballroom doors. But what were the mistakes? This leads to part 5.
Which was awesome work by the Secret Service, by the way. He didn't make it to the ballroom. They stopped it outside. Again, it's just like everything else. You could have done a lot of things better, but in the end, they were able to wrap it up pretty well.
The security loopholes. What went wrong? Loophole 1. The hotel guest exemption. The most fundamental flaw in the entire security plan was this: registered hotel guests were not subjected to early screening. Loophole 2. No luggage screening at check-in. An attendee staying in the room next to Alan's confirmed that nobody checked luggage during hotel check-in on Friday or even as late as 5 p.m. on Saturday. Loophole 3. The manifesto that arrived too late. Alan sent his written manifesto to family members roughly 10 minutes before the attack began. Although his brother notified local police, the warning simply came too late to act upon. Loophole 4. Legal gun purchases with no red flags. Alan purchased his shotgun legally in August 2025, passing an FBI background check. His pistol was also purchased legally in 2023 with a cleared background check. Nothing in the system marked him as a threat. Loophole 5. A public hotel hosting a presidential event. Trump himself addressed this vulnerability directly following the attack. He posted on social media stating this event would never have happened with the militarily top-secret ballroom currently under construction at the White House. This brings us to part 8. What if he had breached the checkpoint? If Alan had pushed past those agents, or if the security detail had been fewer in number, slower to react, or simply overwhelmed, he would have entered a subterranean room with nowhere for the crowd to escape. In a densely confined underground ballroom, a shotgun is among the most devastating weapons imaginable. The casualty potential in that room, even in the brief seconds before tactical agents could neutralize a threat already inside the perimeter, is almost unthinkable. Had the attack succeeded, the United States would have faced a constitutional crisis unlike anything in modern history. The president, the vice president, and much of the executive cabinet could have been incapacitated simultaneously, in the exact same room. But if this was the third attempt on the president's life, what exactly happened during the first 2?
So let me address that. The problems that he's talking about in regards to the handgun purchase, the baggage, the people, the police not, being notified to the last minute. So again, first and foremost, the people not being checked and the baggage not being checked. Again, it's just one of those he calls it a loophole, which it is, because in my opinion, if the president's going to be anywhere, there should be no public access. Everything should be subject to search, whether it's you, the luggage, or whatever. I know they don't want to make it inconvenient, but the problem is they are the president of the United States, and they need the utmost security that they should have been checked out. The gun loophole, again, those are just questions that you answer, but you got to remember that people have breakdowns all the time, and they have mental issues. There's not an onset every day. It could happen at any minute. They can go through depression. They could lose the loved one. There's so many things that could happen. They start just having these visions of the world's doomed, or this person's bad, or that person's bad, or they listen to a lot of these conspiracy theories that are outrageous, and it starts affecting their mind, and they snap to this point where they try and, assassinate the president of the United States. The part about him being able to come in and wipe out, half the cabinet and whatever, it would have been devastating, yes, but there are multiple layers, and I've talked about this all the time with security and how it has to be multiple layers. There are multiple layers to that. He probably would have got a couple shots off, probably in that ballroom before he would have got killed by the men and women of the Secret Service that were in that room.
While the second attempt takes us to West Palm Beach, Florida, home to the prestigious Trump International Golf Club. This exclusive private club offers its members world-class amenities, including 27 holes of championship golf. Now let's examine the positions of Mr. Donald Trump and the shooter. Currently, Mr. Trump is positioned at the 5th hole, while the shooter was reportedly waiting behind the chain-link fences in close proximity. Based on the analysis, Trump was approximately 300 to 500 yards away from the gunman at the time, which is approximately 200 to 457 meters. This visual representation provides a clearer understanding of the layout and the critical distance between the two individuals during the incident. Now that we've understood the gunman's position, we can piece together his actions. He arrived in a black Nissan SUV and parked somewhere in the vicinity, likely choosing a discreet location to avoid drawing attention. After extensive scouting, he began searching for the ideal vantage point, carefully timing his movements. His aim was to strike at the precise moment when Mr. Trump would reach the 5th hole of the golf course. In this animation, we can see the president making his way across the course in a golf cart, unaware of the imminent danger. Little did he know the assassin was waiting for the last 12 hours to take his best shot against the president. As stated, the assailant was armed with an SKS and not an AK-47, as earlier reported. As the president stepped out of the golf cart and prepared to take his shot, a Secret Service agent noticed something suspicious. The suspect had inserted the barrel of his rifle through a gap in the chain-link fence on the outskirts of Trump International Golf Course. This took place at approximately 1:28 or 1:29 p.m. The moment the rifle barrel emerged through the chain fence, the Secret Service acted swiftly. Shots were fired at around 1:30 p.m., neutralizing the threat before the gunman could execute his plan. The suspect, identified as Ryan Wesley Routh, 58, intended to create shock and awe, capturing the entire incident on his GoPro camera. His objective was to sow division among the American people and potentially incite a civil war. Upon inspecting the sniper's location, investigators discovered 2 bags and a ceramic tile, items that may have been part of his setup or escape plan. As soon as the Secret Service agent fired at the suspect, he fled the scene. The suspect likely escaped using the same black Nissan SUV he arrived in, leaving behind the weapon and other items in his haste. But it all started on July 13, 2024, with the very first assassination attempt.
So how he got in that perimeter that close, I don't know. There's always the inner perimeter and a couple perimeters, the bubble, then the circles around the president. Being able to get within 300 to 500 yards, that's, for a sniper, that's an easy shot. So how he was able to get in there that close and get to a chain link fence and breach a perimeter where he can, see the president 300 to 500 yards away is an issue. I don't know how or why that perimeter wasn't secure. That's a big issue.
In Butler, the building the shooter climbed was technically outside of the rally venue, and the Secret Service didn't sweep it. It fell through the cracks, which still falls to the Secret Service because it means nobody checked to ensure the plan was implemented correctly. But before we move ahead, let's map out the basic positions of all the parties involved. First, we have the President Donald J. Trump's podium, and just beside him are 3 bleachers where a selected audience is seated. Behind them is the sniper team, which can be divided into north and south positions, located on 3 buildings. Sniper Team North is located on the 1st building, while on the 3rd building you can find Sniper Team South. Almost sandwiched in between are these trees, which provided some cover from the Secret Service Sniper Team North. Finally, we have the shooter, who climbed from one of those ladders and selected this position to take out his target. This is what the shooter is likely using: an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle. When ready, he squeezes the trigger, firing 3 bullets in a controlled manner. But there's another kind of assassin out there, and this one is targeting our phones and laptops, so you really need a military-grade VPN. Think of Surfshark VPN as your frontline defense. It scans and detects threats, alerting you to thousands of dangerous emails. Beyond that, it includes a robust antivirus software to shield your devices from viruses, malware, and tracking by ads, bots, or third parties. Finally, with Surfshark VPN, a single subscription covers not just you, but also your friends or even your entire city if you wanted. Go to our link surfshark.com/AITelly. By buying through the promo link, you will get 4 extra months free, assured by a 30-day money-back guarantee. Let's map out each of the bullets in detail. Out of the 3 bullets fired, the first bullet hit Mr. Trump on the ear. This is the same round that also hit 2 audience member in Bleacher 3, rendering one of them in critical conditions. Let's move the camera to a top angle to show the line along which the bullet traveled. Next, 2 more bullets were fired. One of them hit a tractor, which was being used as a makeshift array for speakers. These rounds also hit a hydraulic lever, causing it to burst, almost dropping the speakers. The last 5 shots were probably fired in semi-automatic mode. One of these bullets sadly hit an attendee, and our condolences goes out to his family. In total, around 7 to 8 bullets were likely fired by the shooter. Here's a map of all the bullets fired to help you understand better. Everybody was complaining about the Secret Service sniper for taking 2 minutes to take out the shooter, but let's take a look from the sniper's point of view. First of all, we have these tree lines that could have obstructed the sniper team north, while the sniper team south had a clear line of sight. Here are 2 scenarios circulating on the internet. In scenario 1, the leaves and branches of the tree covered almost 90% of the shooter's entire position. However, for an experienced shooter, this would have been possible to manage. He might have fired the shot and took out the threat. Let's look at scenario 2. The distance from sniper south to the shooter was around 600 to 700 feet. This is also a possible shot and can be accounted for by assuming that sniper team south took out the shooter from this range. When ready, he took his shot and fired his rifle with a 308 Winchester round, taking out the shooter. So maybe there was some miscommunication between the 2 teams regarding who should take out the shooter, resulting in a delay of around 2 minutes when the threat was detected on the roof. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Should the second sniper team reacted much faster?
So with this, when Sniper Team 1 and Sniper Team 2, they both have their responsibility. And with those trees in the way, they weren't able to, the north side couldn't see the sniper. And the south, I would assume, reacted with the first noise of the first shot. And they turned and then they realized what was going on and they took a shot. But prior to that, those buildings were never, the roofs were never checked. And number 2, this kid was seen walking in the venue or outside the venue towards the building with a rifle case, and it was never addressed. So the other thing I heard was the fact that before the shot rang out, 2 cops were in the building, and they heard something on the roof. They went out to check, saw the guy with the gun. He allegedly pointed the gun at them. They dropped down and couldn't get it over the radio fast enough to advise Secret Service that there was a sniper on the roof.
At around 5:10, Crooks was first identified as a person of interest, and 5:30, Crooks was spotted with a rangefinder. 5:52, Crooks was spotted on the roof by the Secret Service. As stated,
So they knew he had a spotter, which is, I'm assuming they're talking about the electronic one. It's a little mechanism that sends out beams and brings it back to, it shows your windage in your feet or yards or however. Why that wasn't addressed, I have no idea.
the gunman was positioned outside the rally venue, approximately 400 to 500 feet away from where Trump was speaking. As discussed, the police sniper was located at this position. They were then alerted and started aiming at the suspected shooter. When ready, the bolt-action rifle bullet traveled a range of around 600 to 700 feet. However, this weapon can inflict damage at a range of around 1,200 to 1,300 yards. This is well beyond the shooter's 500 feet limit. From the top angle, this is what it looks like when replaying how the bullet missed Mr. Trump as he moved his head at the last millisecond. Interestingly, this bullet would have hit the former president if his head had been turned towards the audience as shown here in this visualization. At this moment, Trump remains low to the ground surrounded by agents, who could be heard on the rally microphone discussing which vehicle would be used to move the former president away from the scene. Let's fast forward this event here. At 6:40, the former president was ushered to this black armored vehicle. This takes him to the nearest Butler Memorial Hospital, approximately 11 miles away. We make original videos from
So, number of things towards the end there. They had an extract team. I watched the actual video, and the extract team did a hell of a job. They really did good by extracting them out of there, getting them in a vehicle, getting them to the hospital. And in my opinion, whether you believe in God or not, that was God divine intervention right there. That he just turned his head just enough to go look at a slide that it just hit him in the ear and not in the head. And it just goes to show you, the Secret Service, they are so well funded, so well trained, top-notch men and women. But mistakes are made, things are overlooked. And security is always, it's a flowing thing that you unfortunately, I've said this before, you fortunately learn and make adjustments based on mistakes that people get hurt and or killed. But I guarantee you now that the sniper teams, Rangers adjusted, what the area responsibilities are adjusted, the perimeters are now adjusted based on all these assassination attempts. The bubble has gotten bigger and people are starting to get asked a lot more questions if something's suspicious, for sure.